Hello everyone, I'm Nini FC, this is Blue Lines TV. Welcome to another News Daily video. Now, in today's News Daily video, I'm going to be talking about two main stories. I'm going to be talking about N'Golo Kante and why the media, why ex-pros and why supposed experts are really questioning Sarri's methods in regards to his use of Kante. For the second point, I'm going to be talking about Callum HudsonOdoi, of course. But anyway, if you like what I do, if you like the content I produce, smash that like button and help me get more than 500 likes for today's video, and press the bell notification button as well to stay tuned to all things Blue Lines TV. Moving straight on to the first story, and yes, I need to talk about N'Golo Kante, and I'm hoping that this is going to be the final time I ever have to speak about this. I'm not going to lie, I do get quite bored seeing these things on social media or getting asked this every single time. I feel like I've spoken about this so many times, so here's the final time I address this. But what I want to understand is, what's up with the media lately? Since that defeat to Spurs, the first defeat of the season for us, it seems like every ex-pro and pundit thinks they know more than Sarri for the system. And the constant non-issue debate that keeps coming up every single time is that these people feel that Sarri isn't getting the best out of Kante. They feel that N'Golo Kante can only play as a DM deep in midfield, and they were getting quite offended at the suggestion that Sarri feels that Kante can't play in the middle because he's not technical enough, even though the context from Sarri was the fact that Kante isn't technical enough to play as a regista, not about his overall footballing ability. And since then, there have been so many talks of people saying things like, oh, how can Sarri be criticising and being disrespectful to Kante? Kante's won more trophies than Sarri has. Kante is the best DM in the world, and if you've got a player like that, you have to use him in his best position. And to be honest, I find it quite baffling that this could even be seen out of context. First of all, why can't Sarri critique Kante? I mean, he can critique anyone he wants, he's the coach. He developed this tactical style and system. He knows just how good it can be because we've seen what Napoli were doing over the past few years. So actually, it's actually quite nice that Sarri's effectively letting us know what the issue is, how Kante can improve, very respectfully, very to the point, and of course he was completely right with his opinion. What I find really funny is the fact that Sarri explained everything in detail already, so I don't understand how people created discussion points from this. And what Sarri was effectively saying was the fact that with Kante obviously, you know, playing a bit too advanced up the pitch, not being as close to Jorginho as he should have been, it made us even more exposed centrally in midfield, and this is why Spurs were able to create so many overloads through the middle of the pitch. Now, to even prove that Sarri was being respectful with his critique on Kante, he actually explained the context as to why Kante felt like he had to play like this, because we were 2 goals down in the first 16 minutes. Now, you never got this with guys like Conte or Mourinho when it came to their press conferences. You do get this from Sarri, and I feel like he educates a lot through his press conferences. So I don't really understand how his points were taken out of context and became such, you know, reactionary, senseless things. But even addressing this whole Kante thing, and I think it's such a massive disservice from these so-called pundits and ex-pros when they suggest that Kante can only play in the middle of the pitch, as if he's a very limited player when he isn't. Now, the reason why Kante is so world-class is because his game is very refined, and it's refined to a very high level. Just look at how he uses the ball and the things that he does with the ball. And to me, it just shows the tactical naivety that these guys have. It's a Sarri ball system where it's fine-tuned to the point where he likes to use that regista in his team to really help dictate and set the tempo from when the team attacks, off the ball, on the ball, the passing outlet for the team, the link between the defense and the midfield. And he's the very foundation as to why we can't even use Sarri ball, because with Sarri ball, there's a massive importance in how we use the ball from deep, because we do like to play out. And the whole point is you're able to keep possession of the ball very well, so eventually you can create that vertical passing option where you are able to break down an opponent team. Now, why can't Kante play in the middle? Well, if you're playing as a regista, it's a very demanding role technically and tactically. I mean, Chalobah spoke about Jorginho with very high praise. Obviously, Chalobah went on loan to Napoli. He's seen these players firsthand. And what he said about Jorginho was the fact that you could never get the ball off this guy because he always knew when to make the pass, where to make it, perfect weight, perfect balance. It didn't matter what position his body was in, if he was on the half turn, full, 360 degrees behind him, he always knew what to do with the ball, because that's what a regista is. It's a very fine-tuned, tailor-made position. And if it's a system we're using where it's very important how we play out from the back and how we use the ball in deep areas, you can't afford to use someone like Kante, someone that's not well-versed or fine-tuned in that position, and then expect us to be able to play Sarri ball. It just doesn't work. And one more thing these guys are forgetting is the fact that if you take away Kante from his position in the team, it affects how we press off the ball. When we defend off the ball now, it's completely different to very reactive managers we had before in Conte and Sarri, where we would look to defend deep and win the ball in our own half. We don't do that anymore, and this is where Kante is key because he helps us win the ball in the opponent's half. He's technical enough to keep the ball. He's the passing outlet for guys like Jorginho as well. And he plays a great defensive supportive role to the team. And I think it's such an incredibly reactive opinion to think that yes, Kante should be playing in a DM. Yes, if he was playing against Spurs, they might not have scored all the goals they scored. But what you're basically saying is we should sacrifice the system and how we play so we can allow Kante to win a few more 50-50s in his own half to prevent a few more goals, when that's not looking at the grander scheme or looking at the bigger picture. So yes, Kante does win a few 50-50s back in his own half. We really expect him to really help start the attacks from deep as well. I mean, come on now. And you're really telling me you'd have Jorginho being the one to press high up the pitch? I mean, of course not. And on top of that, Sarri's had a recent history of showing that his methods work. I mean, do clubs like Empoli and Napoli not exist anymore? Were they able to play their system in the first week he took over? Of course not. Now, of course, I agree, managers can update their system and their tactics, but if Sarri does do that, it's not going to start with how he uses his regista, because that's the very core and foundation of how his teams play and how he uses them, so it makes absolutely no sense. I'm really hoping this is going to be the final time I ever have to talk about this, because I'm getting very bored by the limited discussion by these people that have such, opposing views. Yes, you might be saying Kante should be playing deep, but where's the logic and the reasons behind that? I haven't seen any compelling argument against why Kante should be playing there. But you guys, to end this point, in the comment section below, give me your thoughts and opinions. Do you think these pundits and ex-pros are onto something? Or do you think they're talking absolute nonsense? They don't know what they're talking about, and they should really stop talking about this point. Now, moving on to the final point of this video, that's in regards to Callum HudsonOdoi. Now, reports have been coming out in regards to interest from Bayern Munich, and reports came out today stating that, and I don't think it really comes as a surprise to most of us, that Chelsea aren't going to let this guy leave on loan until he signs a new contract. And honestly, it's the most disheartening thing, and to me, it shows me that the club aren't really making any drastic efforts to try and change this, old, outdated mentality they do have. And I personally feel that with the youngsters now, they've got a history because they've seen other guys ahead of them make the same mistakes and not prosper from them. Chelsea promised them everything, gave them good contracts, etc, etc, said all the right things, but where are these guys at the club? They're not playing for us. And it's not the first time that Chelsea have tried to force youngsters to sign these big long ass deals, because let's not forget, we've got something called the loan army that generates us a lot of money, and you can't lose something that big that makes so much money overnight. If you've got someone like Callum HudsonOdoi where his contract is expiring, it's in the club's best financial interest to get him to sign a new contract, because number one, when he does leave on loan, you're going to command a nice loan fee for him. Let's say he's gone for 1 to 3 years. Think of the money you're generating over those 3 years. On top of that, his wages will be subsidized as well, so you're effectively just getting free money for the guy. And the final reason is you have a very nice transfer value for the player, so if worse comes to worse, you decide to sell him, you're going to make profit from him regardless. And the question's always been, and I've said this constantly, why does this club like to focus on profit over progress? Because if you're always going to make decisions based on financial rewards over the development of the players, don't expect scenarios where your top talents are nervous to commit their futures to you because you're not doing anything right. I mean, for God's sake, I was talking about links with Premier League clubs like Burnley and Southampton, and for me, the mere fact that we're even considering loaning one of our best players to clubs of that stature is completely ridiculous and unbelievable. As I've said with Brexit, Burnley, long balls, they don't play any attacking style. It's about chasing second balls every single time. Imagine HudsonOdoi, he'll just be forced out wide as a basic winger, wouldn't be anywhere near the opposition goal. And HudsonOdoi's game is about cutting inside and affecting the goal. That's not going to happen at Burnley. What's he going to learn with relegation candidates such as Southampton? I mean, we've already seen with guys like Josh McEachran, he made a massive mistake when he signed for Swansea. It made a lot of sense contextually as to why Brendan Rodgers didn't use him, because, you know, they need to stay up in the league. They have been getting decent results. He doesn't want to shift or affect the balance. And why are you going to start giving game time to, first of all, a player that you don't even own, and it's a young teenage loan player on top of that? And this is the key thing to me that really tells me that Chelsea don't really have that right strategy to produce these young players, because when you look at the top teams, for example, look at Real Madrid youngsters. Every time they leave Real Madrid on loan, or whether it's a short-term, you know, buyback fee arrangement, they always go to good teams that complement how they play, and they play for teams that use them. Chelsea, after all these years, still haven't found a model to be successful in this regards, and it's just purely seeing these guys as statistics and taking risks on them. Now, compare other players that have left, and they've shown that yes, if you leave your parent club, you can have a successful career. Reports are coming out that Diaz is close to signing for Real Madrid, but even then, imagine the guys leaving Man City to sign for Real Madrid. You might be thinking, well, it's actually a stupid move. He's not going to get any game time there. Yes, you do have a point, but look at how Real Madrid have a plan and strategy for their young players. They're all successful now. Look at someone like Odegaard. Yes, he's been struggling with previous clubs, but now at Vitesse, he's playing very good football. He's looking like a top player, and there's potential there, and that's because Real Madrid did their due diligence. Look at other guys like Vallejo, guys like Carvajal, guys like the Spanish guy for Schalke, etc., etc. These guys, even if they don't have a career at Real Madrid, end up actually playing for clubs that fit their potential, and they have such great careers. But this isn't happening at Chelsea. Then you look at guys like Sancho and Reece Nelson, and you guys, you tell me this. Imagine if Man City or Arsenal sent them on loan to clubs like Burnley. Do you really think those players would be showing the same form they're showing now at a club like Burnley? Of course not. And it brings me back to a point that I used to make in regards to a guy called Patrick Bamford. Now, Bamford was the player of the year in the Championship whilst he was on loan at Middlesbrough. He then gets a loan move to a club called Crystal Palace. Now, this for me shows you just how stupid the people are at this club, in my opinion. Yes, I do sound harsh. I'm not really one to have this type of talk, but you're sending a guy in Patrick Bamford, who likes to link up the play and drop deep and make runs in behind, to a club in Crystal Palace that like Benteke and like target men. What were you expecting Bamford to ever do at Crystal Palace? Now look at how Hudson Odoi plays. How are you expecting Burnley or Southampton to get the best out of him or to complement his skill set? You can't. Now Bayern Munich are linked with Hudson Odoi, and it makes quite a lot of business sense for them. Number one, his contract's nearly over. He's going to cost next to nothing. Two, they're thinking, wow, guys like Sancho and Nelson have really taken to the Bundesliga very quickly. Hudson Odoi is in that same category. He's rated very highly, one of the best young English players in the league so far. We've got old guys in Ribery and Robin that aren't going to be here in the future. And we're a club that does like to use our youth players and give them a chance. And they're a club that do create those pathways for their best young players. And we don't do that. We don't distinguish the difference between any decent young player, an average player, or our best players. We treat them all the same, which is absolutely criminal. And if I'm Callum, I'm looking at what Diaz and Sancho are doing. That's Man City's two best young players that they produce. Imagine all the money and time it's taken to really produce these guys to such a high level. Look at them. They're looking to move on. They know that they can't get game time at Man City. They're not waiting. They're not waiting for any possibilities. Man City are allowing them to move on as well because they're being fair to the player. And we don't want to do that, because with that loan army in charge and with no director of football, it's always going to be a case of profit over progress. I'm sorry, Callum, if you're serious about your career, if you want to fulfill your potential, you need to leave this club. If you don't start this game today, a game that means absolutely nothing because we've already qualified, you gotta go because you'll never be taken serious. You guys, that's going to be an end to today's News Daily video. Give me your thoughts and opinions below. Yes, I know that I was quite heated and passionate in today's video, but I really wanted to express my thoughts and opinions. You guys, thank you for watching. Later on, of course, expect the match view to come out after the game tonight. Remember, it starts at 8 PM UK time, so I'll see you guys soon. I'm EFC. This is Blue Lines TV, signing out.